Hey guys, Joe here, and in Points version 2.4, we have some really exciting features that allow you to control points using Total CMS, Feeds, and other dynamic layout tools, right? So in this particular first example, let's go ahead and dive in and see how we can use Total CMS to integrate and manage this particular points instance. So first, to start off, let's say we want to manage this particular image, the main image of points, using Total CMS. Now, there are several different ways that we could do this. We can basically go into the background, the image, and we can do a warehoused image. And if you know, you can actually set a Total CMS macro as the background. You could do that. However, I think potentially an easier way to do this is just to use a custom drop zone. And what you're going to do is you're just going to add in a Total CMS image stack. And there you just point in your CMS ID for your image. And this gives us a little bit more control. If we wanted to, specify if we wanted a JPEG or a PNG, or if we wanted, display maybe on mobile, we wanted to display the thumbnail, right? This gives us a little bit more control by using a stacks drop zone in points. So again, inside points, we're just going to go ahead and set the background to custom drop zone. And what that will do is that will give us basically a drop zone that we're just going to add in a Total CMS image stack. Okay, I kind of had that pre-done. So just to kind of show you what it is, you are going to have to drag in this, from your stacks library, this Total CMS image, and then get that all set up. Now, how can we configure the individual points that lay on top of the image using Total CMS? So with this, what we do is let's go ahead and add a point. Now, traditionally, you can't really do this with Total CMS or Easy CMS. Actually, everything I'm showing you in this first example is also possible in Easy CMS. But one of the problems is we can't control the position because I can't put a macro here. So there's a new setting in points called Advanced Positioning. And when you check that, you'll notice that those sliders then turn into text inputs. So then what we can do is we can actually use macros. So let's go ahead and put in something like percent CMS data. Let's call this point P1X, right? So 0.1X, and we're going to put a percent sign after that. So that is our macro. And then obviously down here, we can then do P1Y. Okay. Now, by using these particular macros, we are required to actually have like 50% saved. But let's say you wanted your user just to save a number, 50 or 40 or 20 or whatever, right? Essentially what we're going to do is we're just going to add an extra percent sign at the end. So that requires that our users do not actually have to put in a percent sign when they save the data into Total CMS. This is very flexible because then, if we want to maybe use pixels instead, right? We can really put in whatever values we want in here. So here we're just going to use percent signs. And then here in the info, you can then go ahead and put in a, let's see, P1, info, something like that, right? So 0.1 info. So we'd put another macro here for our information. And the last place that you might potentially want to use a macro is if your point has an image associated with it. You can go ahead and there's a new option for warehouse image. And here you can put in either a URL or another CMS macro. Okay. And guess what? If you want another point, remember these manage individual points. So if we want to have another one, we then, or let's just maybe easier just to copy and paste this. We could then say this is for 0.2, and then I'm going to do P2X, and then P2Y, and then P2 info, so on and so forth. So basically, you're going to have to create for every single point that you want. Let's say, assuming you're not going to have an image here, okay? So here I have 2 points. I'm going to have to create 6 different CMS IDs just to manage 2 points. So 3 CMS IDs for every single point. While it's possible, that is a lot of work. Okay. If you want to really manage this individually. However, there's a better way. So let me show you the end result here. Essentially, what I'm going to do is we're going to use a blog to manage points on top of an image. So here I have a point stack that has 5 points that just has some, tooltips in there positioned. Okay. Now, if we look here I'm managing the background image using Total CMS. And then on this side, I'm actually managing the points where each point is an individual blog post. So if I can go ahead and edit any of these, so I can go ahead and let's say I want to edit the bottom right one. Let's click on bottom right. And here I'm editing bottom right. Here's the horizontal and vertical. Let's say I want to change this to be 75 and 75. Okay, let's go ahead and save. And let's refresh the page. And what you'll see is this point now, it used to be over here, is now over there because I easily added that. We can add a new point, right? Let's go ahead and add a new point. So if I go ahead and click add new point, let's go demo point. Okay. And horizontal position is 25% and vertical is 75%. Let's save that. Okay. Let's go ahead and reload our page. And there it goes. There's our demo point. So I can now add as many points as I want onto this image. Super powerful. Now, in this particular demo, this demo is actually inside the project file for points. I have it all on one page. You probably want to, have your blog list and the form on separate pages. I think it maybe makes it a little bit easier, but it's up to you. It does work all on one page. It just kind of makes for slightly chaotic interface sometimes when you have them both on the same page. But for demo purposes, I just wanted it all on one page. So let's look at how all this was implemented. So here inside points 2, what I've done is I have the same interface. So I have a CMS image inside the stacks drop zone area, identical to how we saw that before. Now, instead of adding a point directly here, what I did is I added a total loop stack from my stacks library into points. Then I added a single point inside of total loop. Now, in the total loop stack, you want to make sure that you set it to be the ID of your points blog. So I created a blog called points. And essentially, you just want to make sure that you can sort and whatever. I just have date set to all posts so that I see all points, basically. You can limit the number of blog posts or AKA points as well. So you can limit it to 10 or whatever you want. So if you want to, you definitely, if you don't want to have a maximum, set that limit to be as big as possible. So then how do we inject all that data into our points? So let's go into the point stack and you'll see all I did was I'm using 3 fields. I'm using the author field as the X position. I'm using the genre field as the Y position. And I'm using the blog post title as the info. And also check that I'm also putting % signs in here so that I don't require the user actually input that % sign. They just need to input a number and I actually put the percentage in there directly into here. Okay. So let's scroll down on this page. We can kind of see how things are worked out on the Total CMS admin side. So here's my my image. This is just a normal image stack, an admin image, and the CMS ID here is called points. And then here is our blog configuration. Okay. Now this isn't a blog image. This is a normal CMS image. And then in our blog list, I'm setting that to be a CMS ID of points. Now this is the blog ID called points, whereas this image is the image ID called points. So you can actually use the same ID across different types of CMS elements, and it's just fine. Okay. So here I have a CMS ID of points for this blog list. And for fun, I actually went ahead and changed some of the things. So instead of posts, I said points, right? I didn't sort. Then I hid some other elements that I knew I wasn't going to use for this particular blog list, right? So I wasn't using any of these elements, so I decided to hide those. But I wanted to kind of make things a little bit user-friendly. So instead of it saying posts, it says points. Now, below that is the blog form. And you see here, I just added I have a permalink, which is, I just changed the placeholder to be ID. We have the title, which is the point info. The author, which I changed the placeholder to be horizontal position. and the genre, which I changed the placeholder to be vertical position. And then, of course, we have a save button. Now, in the blog form, all you have to do is make sure that you set the CMS ID to be points, which is the same blog as we set up our list to be. Then I just added a button here that just links to this page, which is just a new post or new point. And that's really it. It's really simple setup. And for this total loop will take care of every single point that we add. It'll go ahead and add those attributes into points. Super, super powerful. Now, very similar to the Total CMS total loop integration, we can use feeds to actually integrate and generate our points dynamically. So here's an example of that. And this example is also inside of our demo files. We'll notice that we added a feed stack into points. And basically, I generated a CSV feeds. So if you see here, I just have an example of info XY with all my coordinates here. And then basically, very similar to total loop, I take that data points and then I just add the actual macros from feeds into here. Now, what's great about feeds is it will work inside preview, whereas total loop, you actually have to publish. Now, if you were using blog, you can actually use feeds to bring in your points blog and actually have that work inside preview. But total loop will not work inside preview. You will have to publish for that. So as a workaround, if you do want to use Total CMS blog, you can actually use the Total CMS integration from feeds to preview that data inside RapidWeaver, and it will work in preview and on publish. Just the way total loop was built, that it requires that you publish. But here's the example that we have using feeds, and super powerful. Now, in this example, I did use a CSV file, but the same really works with any sort of data feed within feeds. It doesn't have to be a CSV file. You can use whatever feed you want to basically generate points dynamically. As long as that data maps to what points is expecting, it'll work just fine.